We did it, Anthony. We made it to the last show of No Vacancy Live in 2022. Do you feel
we made it accomplishment? Show. We made it, but will we finish it?
Stay tuned and find out.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's Anthony Melchiori. I'm Glenn Hausman. Welcome to the holiday season, our last show of 2022. And I couldn't be happier than to be doing it with you, Anthony Melchiori.
So let's save some time at the end of the show or in middle to the end of the show where we discuss we review 2022 and see if we can remember all the things that we've been lucky enough to do on this show.
We did so much this year, and it was such an honor to be able to do that. And I want to send out a big thanks to the folks at Radisson and then Choice Hotels for being such big supporters of the podcast in 2022. Thank you so much. We hope to do another partnership with you guys again in the future. And I want to thank current sponsor Avgo. Their Avgo virtual front desk. It's a human assistant front desk with automation features. And I love this because it really helps you keep that customer service element even when you're utilizing technology for guests in and out service. Right, Anthony?
Absolutely. And I also want to thank Cintas for being a sponsor and always supporting me in the show. So thank you very much.
They were great. We got to do that great hotel housekeeping contest with them. That was a real honor to be a part of.
They're wonderful. They're a great company, great people, and I look forward to continuing working with them. Yep. So glad.
Yeah.
Same thing with you, but I'll thank you later. Yeah. So what do we got going on today, Glenn?
All right. So I'm excited today because one of the common themes that we've been talking about for our nigh on 18 months or something like that is the whole notion of attracting, retaining, and growing talent in today's labor market. And over at IHG, Clif Deaton has been doing that exact same thing. So we're like, hey, let's get this guy on over here. Let's talk about it. Clif, festive, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all the others to you. How are you, friend?
All of the above. Fantastic, guys. Thanks for having me. Huge fan of the show. Totally starstruck. So thanks for inviting me to join today.
Well, we're very excited. I thought you were supposed to wear an ugly sweater or something like that today to go with the thematic.
Yeah, I don't know if Dave got that memo to me or not, but we'll go with this.
Yeah, no, I don't have any ugly sweaters, but I do have too many shirts featuring cats on them, so there's a problem there.
So at least do me a favor, Glenn. Just fix that collar on the left or the right.
Right.
It's driving me crazy.
All right. Yeah, I got to. I've been
driving me crazy would be a short trip. So. So, Clif, why don't you tell people what you do, who you work with, and then I want to really dig into how this year's been.
Yeah, sure. So, 17 years now with IHG. I've been both on the hotel operations side and now at the corporate office for about 13 years here in the Americas. I look after the company managed business for the US and Canada. And with a team of individuals, we look after both the full service estate, and IHG has a portfolio of IHG Army hotels that we look after. So we look after holistically the people, life cycle, and the colleague itinerary for everyone as part of the managed business in those estates.
And believe it or not, I actually got my first job really in the hotel business being a protocol officer in the military. Wow. And I was in charge before they would have hotels like you on base and around base. We had on base housing for visiting dignitaries, and I was responsible for that. And the first time I ever took care of a guest as a hospitality expert or as a protocol officer, I was taking care of a retired general, and I took good care of him. And my Captain Burke, was like, he was on it. He was like the guy he was there before me in the morning, and we just made sure everything was perfect. I remember I still have the Lieutenant General's card that he wrote me, and he said, if I can give you, because I was an NCO, not commissioned officer, if I can give you a promotion, because I guess during war they can give you a promotion to a lieutenant, which is an officer, I would do that. And I was just like, I never wish for war, but I wish I could have got promoted to the lieutenant right there. But it's just because I learned that just take care of people a little bit goes a long way.
Did you get a coin? Did you get one of the
challenge coins?
No, I didn't get a coin, but as Glenn knows, because we were in the Pentagon last week.
And by the way, stay tuned on Monday when we're going to be running a very special show based on the interviews that we did at the Pentagon with Chief Master Sergeant Joanne Bass. Anthony?
And I was coined, and Glenn was stickered.
I did, because Cliff, I got the gearbox, right? And I spent the longest time not putting any good stickers on it. So I'm trying to collect stickers where I go. So I got myself one from the Pentagon. I also got a Space Force t-shirt, which I'm excited about.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, what you're doing is pretty cool. So let's bring it back to you. Attracting, retaining, and growing talent. This year has been an absolute challenge, as I was saying in the introduction. How has the year gone from you? But I think a better place to start is in a year ago today to a year to today, what have you learned? What has changed? How are you thinking about things a little bit differently?
Yeah, so it's hard to imagine that a year ago, kind of today, we were in the throes of writing protocols for how to think about mandatory vaccinations across the business.
Right.
And we were working with partners, we were working with owners, we were working with the hotels on how we're going to track and measure. And magically, the day that we were having the call with all of the managed business general managers and human resources directors for how to tackle that, midstream the call, breaking news from CNN, the vaccine mandate was stayed. There was no further action needed. So there was a bit of a quick pivot for what we were really looking at. What we saw coming out of pandemic, who would have thought on backside of the pandemic that we would have had such a challenge finding staff? You think we've moved people out of the business for so long. They have to be dying to really return. And then all of a sudden business starts to ramp. We open the vines to requisition people back in, and it's nothing. Nobody's there. Right. So really a key shift for us was we had to reteach and relearn and build muscle that what we were doing in past of posting and hoping that people would apply for a role wasn't working. And so we launched heavily into and leaned heavily into sourcing specialists to help us build muscle. We built really fantastic muscle around how to really leverage social media to attract people in. We put a hardline message about activating your ground game locally, where you were playing and how you would find people. And it for us became not only how you were playing, where you were playing, and where you were fishing. It became a speed and numbers game. And the first person to the offer with the most compelling and the competitive offer would win.
Right.
Part of that as well, though, which we've never experienced, I think, across businesses, the amount of people who would ghost us clearly on roles. We could be down the aisle, offer made, and then all of a sudden we were ghosted. There was no,
and that also extends to they're supposed to show up that first day and never do.
That's exactly right. And I think that became the employment and the people cycle and employee connections really starts when you could bring people into the hotel and you would have interviews and you would meet with different people. Yeah. The dynamic of the pandemic and the dynamic of social media and having to do things virtually, I believe there was a lack of a loyalty or a connection at all. So I don't know you personally, or I don't really know you. So I'm going to use your offer to really hop to get something different. Right. So that lesson we learned really quickly is that we need to really activate where we play and how well we land that game. And it really, we had to shift the mindset of human resources professionals. Right. So they really had to go, you actively had to work. And oh, by the way, the old adage of what we'd always say, everybody in the hotel is a salesperson. Everybody in the hotel became a recruiter. You have to be on and recruiting all the time to really drive people into the business.
A lot to unpack there, Anthony.
And one of the things that we try to do here is we really try to advocate for hospitality, whether it be our podcast, my shows, our speeches, everything we do, our new show that we're coming out with next year. Same thing. We're advocating. We're actually helping people, hotels find, and I'll tell you more about that once we get the green light, hospitality experts. I'll give you an example of how everything's moving so fast. I just did a TikTok about urgency, and I actually talked about it on the podcast, and then we turned it into a TikTok. And you have a sense of urgency. But what happens is, on the other side, I saw it firsthand in my own family. My daughter was in the hotel business, but it was temporary. She worked in a wonderful hotel in probably the most stressful position in the hotel, in the best hotel in the country. And she loved it, but she was working weekends and she just wanted to be an event planner. That's what she went to school for. And so she was coming home on the command bus, 2-hour ride there and back every day on the express bus, and worked weekends. And she did it, and she did it with a smile. But she's like, I want to go into event planning. Wednesday, say I'm going to call it a Wednesday. She went on Indeed. There was a job posted that was perfectly suited for her, working in the city with working from home Monday and working from home Friday, half days Fridays. It was paying more money. And by Thursday morning, she had the interview. By Monday morning, she had the job. It was an immediate, like, perfect scenario. Great job. They were serious. And there was like 6 other people involved within a couple of days. They went through the 6 people. My daughter probably, if it was another 24 hours, would have been on to another interview potentially. And boom,
Right.
it was there. It's not that my daughter's not loyal. It's not that my daughter is not great at what she does or she's trying to play people. She just, if she sees another job that comes up in her face on Indeed or wherever, making more money, that person could have lost that opportunity, because never in the world have we had this kind of technology at our disposal. We are now sitting 8-9 hours if you're looking for a job, and you can find a lot of them. So as you're saying, yeah, I'll take that job, I'll take that interview, something else pops up with a higher salary, and they're done.
Absolutely. I think the other key piece of that too, kind of in spring, so urgency, and that's why we said it's a speed and numbers game. You've really got to move quickly on these things. The other thing is, as we evolved kind of midstream, spring, late summer, we were working very closely with our ownership groups and really understanding kind of their pangs were really ours and how we were addressing those. And so they really challenged us on all these pieces to really begin to educate and help build that muscle. But what we then saw was a pretty big shift. And the shift was, all of a sudden, we have requisitions that had nobody, and now we have requisitions with multiple 50, 60 applicants on the chain.
Wow.
And so getting through those, we had to really work quickly. And so as a business, we worked internally to establish a temporary staffing agency inside of the organization to help us clear some of those rungs and to provide some of the support for the hotels to get through some of those requisitions, to really move people along at speed and at pace to get people into the hotels.
It's so interesting that we've seen such a unique confluence of events between a global pandemic and the rise in technology, and people's expectations have increased at the same time. So all of this is really challenging you. And I love that you get to rethink everything kind of from the bottom up, right? So you mentioned a couple of things that interested me. And one of them was social media to attract people. In the last year, I've actually started to see commercials on YouTube and stuff like that. And one hotel brand that's not a competitor to yours was all about playing up how you could connect with other people and make friends there and, have that sort of universe. I'd never seen anything like that. Through social media, are you able to do anything that's more lifestyle oriented, for example, as opposed to hiring dishwasher at $15 an hour?
Yeah. So that's really where I think the creativity comes in, and we're able to reimagine, how we go to market and really lean into our values as a company, and not just say we're hiring a dishwasher at $15 an hour, or really a front office agent. It really is about where we're playing and who we're attracting. And when you think about the generational overlay and Gen X and Gen Zs and where they're finding and where they're playing, we took a hard look at who was playing where in social media. And interestingly enough, TikTok got the most time.
That's not a surprise at all.
It was a phenomenon, because you raise your hand and you go LinkedIn. Well, I'm not going to find everybody on LinkedIn, or you're not going to find places. But advertising for us, the way that we did that, we built out content for the hotels to leverage using their own images. But we also found that leveraging video technology to do a video ad to really bring people in was also a way that we were able to pull and attract in across the spectrum, not really losing. So again, this is a muscle that I think everyone across industry have learned, not just in hotels, but it's how you play, where you play, and the content you deliver.
Mhm.
And for us, it wasn't about a job. It was really about come join us. It's a journey. It's a lifestyle, and it's a
Yes.
career. And here's how we help you do that. And being able to imagine yourself in the organization, in a place, and at the same time leaning very hard into our pillar of equity, inclusion, and diversity, and how people love to see themselves inside of businesses. And so that played a huge role in the video programming and all of the recruiting pieces that we were able to provide into the business.
So trying to consciously change the whole notion of from going from this is a job to this is a real career path for you.
Absolutely.
And because you're in hospitality, you'll be exciting and different as you go along.
So you're beginning to tap into the retain and grow piece of,
That's right.
of that, because what we realize it's not just attracting people.
Mhm.
It really is about how we tie them in, how we make people stick.
Right.
And so really the attractor piece for us is, what do we have to offer? And we commissioned early on kind of an expression, and we said culture is so paramount and important to any organization,
Mhm.
but especially to a hotel, and how people contribute and how they know they contribute.
Right.
So we coined the phrase and the hashtag culture is a verb. Culture can't simply be a noun. It's how we bring to life the brand and how people can experience themselves inside of that and know that they're contributing, and the pieces that we laid in. And part of that was also, what do we do on the everyday to make sure people understand how they contribute and they're valued, but also how we then grow people, how we grow people into roles that they may think, and what offer do we have to make sure that people feel valued as part of a broader organization.
It sounds to me this is like the mirror. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound too New Yorky there. The mirror image of what people are doing to attract customers to hotels. That aspirational idea of it, giving you some idea of how that experience is going to be instead of being a plain vanilla.
Yeah, and what you said, everything you said is exactly where brands and hotel companies need to be, and I see it more and more myself. You know, and you use the word culture, and I've been saying for a while now that culture's got to surf both ways, right?
Mhm.
So you have this culture, you have this brand, and you have several brands within your, more than several brands within your brand. And what does that mean? And how do we show up? And how do we show up for our guests? Now you're saying, well, how do we show up for our employees? What do they need? Because it's their culture too, not only where they come from, and maybe they look different than other people at that department, because now we know diversity in our in hospitality. It's something we really have to concentrate on, because there's not enough diversity, especially in the C suites and the executive suites. So how do you take that and take a person that may not fit in with the corporate culture, or may not fit in with standards and policies and books, and this is the way we do things, and you're really kind of showing them that it's not about that. It's about bringing your personality to our company. And yes, of course, there'll be standards, but we want you. And that's really, to me, the next 100 years. I mean, we need people to show their personality. You know, me and Glenn had one of the greatest experiences I've had in a long time, maybe top 5 I've ever had from a culinary experience.
Oh, I thought you were going to say from a cuddling experience.
No,
because that was special to me.
No, I double locked my door. But my point being is, we were sitting at a restaurant, or not even a restaurant, a lodge, and we're getting ready for a podcast next day, and we're sitting there, and a young lady, this is so simple.
Yeah.
And I talked about it on yesterday's podcast because we were at the lodge, and it was so simple, but Glenn said, I don't like gin. And what is your natural response? Oh, okay. What do you like? No, because she had a personality that her whole life, you can tell she fought. Her whole life, she was always a fighter, an entrepreneur. Like, she's not taking that. It's like, you don't like gin? What do you mean you don't like gin? She took it as a personal, attack that you don't like gin. I have gin in my bar. I make gin drinks. So she said to him, and I really feel this is such an important story. She said, oh, you're offering me a challenge. Thank you. I'm going to make you a gin drink you like. And he loved it. Yeah. And that, to me, is the people we need to attract. That, to me, is hospitality. That, to me, isn't a standard from whether it be IHG or any other brand. That's a human being who loves hospitality and understands what her role is. Her role is to give me experience. So I've seen it, done it. So I've done it all, right, in hospitality. That moment, she stopped me and took my breath away. I was like, you are a rock star.
And those are the types of individuals that we have to attract into the business.
Right.
We have to find those people who have really, as part of their DNA, the ability to want to take care of people. Not everybody's cut for the business, and that's okay. They're a location. So we have to make sure when we're going through the selection process that when people are choosing us, we're digging into why is this important to you? How do you value this? And what are the situations that you can help us understand so that we bring you in and you're not just emergency hiring somebody who has a signature and can fog a mirror. When we do that, we lose 90% of the time because they're not going to be happy with us. We're not going to be happy with them. And we all know the outcomes of those things. And then we get into the cycle. I didn't have time to, I was in an emergency. I needed to hire somebody. I hired somebody. I filled the gap. And all of a sudden, here we go. So we're in the turnover cycle. Part of the lesson as well is we have to fish where we know people are really coming, where we know people want to enter the business. And so programming through our organizations like we have an IHG Academy that works with local organizations to help us find people who want to funnel into the business. And then we look up into our IHG Future Leaders program that really helps us attract at hospitality programming across colleges and universities globally, not just here in the region, to funnel people into the business who actually want to be in the business. Locally this year and in the region, we hadn't planned to do a massive university recruiting campaign. We didn't have a lot of budget for it. And I'm really proud to say kind of mid-year to the end of the year, not only did we activate and visit 15 different university programs, we also were able to bring 25 different students from around the globe who are IHG Future Leader, J1 management trainees who are inside of the business right now that we're remarketing as IHG citizens back to their regions so we can place them in the business. That's the key to making sure that we're successful long-term and that we continue to build the business because we're growing citizenship in a company that are going to take care of people and know what the answer is when Glenn doesn't like Jen.
Yeah. And you know what it's about? There's two parts of it, right? I don't know how I can express any more love that I have for this industry than I have throughout my career. I am addicted to it. I'm a crack addict to it. I'm all of it. And the reason I am is because of all the things I wake up in the morning and happen to me. You know, I don't make them happen sometimes. They just happen to me because I'm in this industry, you know, and I told that story about the gin 5 times in 24 hours, right, Glenn? And you've heard every single the story.
I don't know. I feel like you might have gotten 1 or 2 in that I wasn't present, but
So, and I'm probably going to tell that story 5,000 or 6,000 more times in my career because you have to do 2 things. One, you have to be ready for anything to come at you. You have to mentally, physically, emotionally be prepared. Number 2, you have to want to say yes all the time. Meaning not yes to the customer's always right, because the customer's wrong a lot. It's yes to the opportunity to do what that young lady did and a lot of people do and to turn that person around. And also, you've got to deal with it's going to be overtime. There's going to be holidays. You're going to be asked to do things that my daughter, who's an event planner, would not be asked to do. But on event planning day, this kid's out of the house from 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning, and she's at work the next day. That's unfortunately sometimes in the hospitality industry, that's our day, maybe for a couple of months. But you have to
a couple of decades.
No, you talked about building muscle, right? You have to understand it's building character and muscle, and you have a speed pass to the front of the line of your career. We just saw someone in our career field who worked their way up and now just got a huge role at one of a huge company outside of our industry and one of the biggest roles out there. And that person could have easily been a busboy 25 years ago, or a bus girl or a cocktail waitress, and now CEO of a major company. That's what our industry does for people.
That's right. And I think you spot on. It does. I think it unlocks, and you're right. The people who are completely attracted to the business. Look, I've grown up in the business. I started, 30-ish years ago. North of that, slightly.
I started 35 years ago, if that makes you feel better.
See, there you go. We're probably around the same age then, but I think we like gin, whether Glenn does or not.
Now I do, apparently. So
Yeah,
it's great.
We understand at its core. And I was told a long time ago, and I started my career with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company in the very early 90s. And I had the opportunity to become a director of training and development. And the then VP of learning said to me, and this has always stuck with me, and I always share it as part of my leadership journey and as part of the experience that I talk to everybody about, is never, ever forget where you came from. I started on the front lines waiting tables, and it was one of the most magical experiences for me because I had the opportunity to create an experience at every single table that I had. And I loved doing that. And I worked my way through all sections of the business, in through the rooms division, as MOD, which can be one of the classically most difficult jobs. Yep. But I have an attraction to the business. And so when things are happening, it makes me a better human resources professional because we're business people first, and then we choose to be HR people later. But I understand the pains that a housekeeper has when she complains about the number of rooms or how high the mirror is and what we have to do. And I understand when things go on. So it helps us actually create structures and policies around those types of things. At its core, it's really finding people who have hospitality woven into their DNA. And that's not everybody. People who want to surprise and delight and take care of customers, regardless of brand, regardless of where you are. You can find that anywhere. And it can be at a mom and pop shop down the street, or you can be, at the Intercontinental, at the Willard in DC, anywhere. Right. And when you find it. When you find those individuals who have the true spirit of service.
Yeah. And what I say is I like making people happy. It's taken me 30 years to realize that my core thing is I like making people happy. I don't like bureaucracy. I don't like people who are mediocre. I don't like people who are always complaining. I like making people happy. And the only way to make people happy is surrounding yourself with other people that understand that the goal is to make people happy. And that's the goal.
You're right. And I think the core, some of the onus is on us to make sure that everybody is aligned to the concept that our colleagues are our absolute most important asset in our guest love and service commitment to the customer and to our guests, and making sure that they're taken care of and they understand the role of their job and how they do it, and giving them the tools they need to be able to deliver that. Really is at the center of how we need to get to making sure that people love that and they love what they do, and making it really easier for people to build love for the guests and build loyalty long range. I think that's where we have to focus energy. That comes with training, that comes with culture, that comes really with creating commitment, and that's really where we have to spend time. I know looking forward into the next year, we have a lot of our initiatives and a lot of the programming that we'll be pushing will really be around centering us back to culture as a verb, and how we recommit to make sure that we deliver that in a way that everybody appreciates the environment and where they work.
I love that. Now, I've got a question for you coming from Daniel, and it's one of those issues that are controversial when it comes to this sort of stuff. How do you feel about those hiring bonuses? Some say great, some say it's kind of a false expectation that you're putting out there, and people aren't in it for the long term.
Look, I think it's a great question. So thanks for the question, Daniel. We put those on the shelf last year. As a way, what we found in certain markets were, you would get an offer here, and across the road, somebody was giving you something. So a bartender may work a day here, and then they would jump across the street. So we actually put in the architecture for how to handle that across the system, where it makes sense, and how that works. So when we need it, we haven't seen it a lot of late where we have to do those things, but there's some flexibility, I think, with how we have to approach total hire, or if you're looking to attract people and they're asking for an added week of vacation, how do we handle that locally and how do we handle those decisions? So there's some element of flexibility with regard to hire and with regard to those bonus schemes that
Right.
sometimes become points of negotiation, and
Mhm.
really depending on how you want to enter the candidate. Key thing here, I think, on back of that, if you're starting at wages and benefits, and your wages and benefits are really outside of market, that's really a showstopper. You don't have to be the highest in the market, but you have to be competitive. And so I don't care what amount of social media play you're getting.
Right.
If you're paying the lowest rate in the market and your benefits programming isn't at par or an equity with everybody else, those are the first places to look. Then add on pieces like referral bonuses or retention bonuses or other kind of programming, because that will get you a longer game play. But those are showstoppers if you haven't evaluated. That's kind of that's a starting point.
We've all had those conversations with owners,
Yeah.
because most people don't know how brands work, right? And they don't know that not in your situation because you're controlling the branded hotels, but the hotels are owned by individuals. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with over the years, or my friends that are working for brands had with owners. And they're like, well, this is what I can afford. It's like, no, you can afford more, but you don't want to pay more. You're going to get what you pay for. And people are going to go and jump. That has been our DNA in this industry for a very long time. The brands have helped really kind of create a way for owners to understand that we have a standard and we have to meet that standard, and you have to do what you have to do to attract really talented people. So that's been a real help. But I can't tell you how many times that the first thing they do is they cut, they either, how many years have people had the same wage or got a 2% raise, and they're 15 years and they were making $3 more than when they started.
Yeah.
And it's insane that you think, and now that people have control, people talk about, well, people don't care anymore and people are lazy and people are at home.
That's dodging the issue.
And that's just BS. It's people have tools that they didn't have 10 years ago. And the pandemic really, really made it happen. And those 35-year-olds and 45-year-olds that didn't know TikTok and didn't know how to use a computer and didn't know how to get on Zoom know how to do that now. So they feel empowered.
That's right. I think also as well, the to fortune is really, yes, working for the company managed estate is. Am I getting feedback?
A little bit.
Let's try again. Are we there?
There you go.
Okay. Don't know what was happening. Gin got in the way of the internet, perhaps.
I know. I'd rather get it into my belly at this point, but what are you going to do?
Except in the interwebs.
Yeah.
So really, I think the fortunate part of us is equally and massively important to the organization is our owners and the Owners Association, Anthony, to your point. So working alongside them to really understand the value of what's happening. And that's both on the brand managed side and also helping our incredible franchise owners understand that as well, and working in close partnership. The data doesn't really lie, and it's easy to show, how things are happening. And we saw across that, which seems to be somewhat stabilizing now, really wage wars in markets where if somebody was paying, somebody else was the competitor across the road was going to pay $2 more. Right. Hence the reason the bartenders were moving or, staff was moving, which is why we've had to put into play things like retention or manning bonuses to get people to stick. But helping people understand, I think by and large, what we've understood is there was some pain, but there's a large part of educating the market shifts and the economics and really being able to articulate the economic story that if we don't take smart decisions with base wage and with benefits programming and how we price, we're going to lose. We won't be competitive. And it's the same kind of methodology.
Right.
Great. You don't want to be last in those kinds of things either. So it's really helping people understand the importance of having a good view of what's happening across the market. We've seen some interesting things happen with wages. We've just completed locally, hours for the business in the region. And there are some markets, interestingly enough, where we see the wage for housekeeping staff priced the same as front office staff.
All right, hold on 1 second there. I want to drill down into this a little bit, because one of the things that Anthony and I have been talking about and seeing anecdotally is the difference in being able to hire and the weight to urban versus suburban versus rural. And we're seeing maybe like, you know, we were out in the middle of nowhere. It's very difficult for them to attract people. How does all of that relate to what you're talking about as well?
Yeah, that's a reality every day, Glenn. We face that certainly in our rural markets. And that's understanding what your competitors are offering, because not only are people aren't just going from hotel to hotel, people are going from hotel to major retailer or from hotel to window factory, and understanding if we don't close the gap on certain roles and really having a hard look at that, we're going to lose. And when there's smaller talent pools in those areas, we've got to be as competitive as possible and balance that as much as we possibly can. Again, it's about the ground game. I can tell you what to do from Atlanta all day, but it's really understanding locally and helping our operators understand how we have a hard look at what that is and what are some of the other pieces that we can add. We're an amazing organization. And so we're not just selling an hourly rate, we're selling a whole lot more.
Right.
And our employer value proposition with benefits, with everything, is important. At the end of the day, if somebody's making $5 more an hour up the road, we have to help people understand how to bridge them and close those gaps.
Listen, I know people that have worked in brands, and they worked at the front desk, and now they're running parts of these brands, and they're very wealthy, and they have incredible retirement funds, and they're working sometimes just because they want to work, but they don't have to work. So this industry is lucrative. Talent matters. You will get a job in this industry. You probably will sustain your job as long as you're doing enough to sustain your job. But if you really want a rocket ship and you really want to build and develop wealth and really create something, you work harder than everyone else around you, and you raise your hand and you run real fast and you have urgency and you have energy. It's a rocket ship. The industry is a rocket ship. And I can't say it enough. And I'll be saying it when they're closing my coffin. And the greatest thing,
if that was my case, I'd be like, "No, I'm not dead yet." That's what I would say.
And the greatest gift that this industry gives you is experiences. Me, you, and Glenn can all say famous people we met, guests we've met, people have changed our lives, stories that have changed our life. You know, the number one guest in my life is Leo Rossi. He changed my life in whatever it was, 20-something years ago. Everything I do, including this podcast, is because I met a person that helped my career in entertainment and in everything. And I met that person in the hotel. So everything you can get out of this industry, and but you have to work your ass off. And that's it. You have to work hard. If you don't work hard, the industry, it's a difficult place to work. And that is you just got to give into it. It's like, if you're going to be an NFL star, you're going to be the next LeBron James. These people are insane with their work ethic. You think they got what they got because they were mediocre? You know, there's famous stories about LeBron and Jordan and Kobe, and there's famous stories about they were the first in, first out of the gym. In this industry, if you want to be a superstar and you want to go up, you want to be whatever you want to be, you got to put in the work, but it's rewarding. A lot of jobs you put in the work and it's not rewarding. This industry is rewarding.
It's massively rewarding. It's, I think, not for the faint of heart always, because we're 24/7, 365. Right. It's the nature of what we do. And even on breaks, like we're getting ready to go through holiday break right now, you know, we're all tethered. If something happens that we have to take care of what's happening locally and on ground, that's the important, and that's why we do what we do, and that's why we're connected and we're attracted to that. It is.
I just want to stop there. I want to use the word tethered. You got to get used to it, right? And then it just becomes like another part of your personality. It's like you don't shut off. You do shut off. You do relax. You read a book. You go away. You go on vacation. You look at your phone anyway. You're looking at your message anyway, because you're always looking at your phone, because we all do. Right. And if you set your position up right and you set your life up right, the only time they call you is when they're probably informing you something happened that you can't do anything about, but you just want to know.
Right.
And that was the second piece of what I was going to say. It's so important to set up the organizations and build the muscle and the skill of individuals so that they're equipped to do those things. Tethered is, we're going to check email naturally every day. It's part of what we do, what you do, what I do. It's part of our worlds now. But really making sure that people are fully equipped to take care of what they need to do, but knowing that in the midst of something, the phone can always ring and we're always on the end of able to help people through those situations.
Yeah. I'm forgetting, Anthony, maybe you'll be able to remember which one of our guests was saying that he could go away because everybody is doing what they need to do and he doesn't feel the need to micromanage them.
Yeah, listen,
you know?
I say to young managers all the time, you're not important. That housekeeper doesn't show up, that front desk agent doesn't show up, they're important. If you set up the system the right way and you're gone for 6 weeks, the only thing they're going to do is miss your presence. They're going to not miss what you have to do because you set it up the right way. And, I said this a little while ago on this podcast that I would say outside of openings, I didn't work weekends for 25 years. And people always said, wow, you must work. I said, if it's an opening, it's different. If I'm taking over a hotel, when I lost 18 pounds and all my hair and I can't walk anymore, I go home. But after I set it up and I build a great team, we build a great team, I go home normal. And I don't work weekends. It's a rule. I don't work weekends. And it was it was kind of what my boundaries were. But if I hired people who made me look like a clown, then I didn't have to do it. And most people can run circles around me that I hired. Most people are 10 times smarter than I am. And I don't say it to be like, oh, look at me, I hire smart people. Straight up, they are smarter and better than what I do. And who's smarter than they are? Me, because I'm on the weekend.
Right.
Yeah. I think you're really sticking the landing on kind of the other key piece of what we were talking about with attracting and growing talent is really the cultural component of all of that. And it's like, Anthony, get out of my head. When I do leadership orientations and we talk to people, it's the inverted pyramid. And I say to everybody, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, there'd be a pretty big dent in that bus. Nobody would really care. But if the front office leader or the dishwasher or the housekeeper gets hit by a bus and doesn't come to work, that's a massive impact to the organization and to the business. And it's understanding and helping people understand that in their order of priority and importance. The other key piece in building the right team is our role in leadership is to allow people to set the expectation and to lay out the objective and let them go and tap into their creativity and take risks and say, how can I help? And let me help you clear the path for what you need to really build and design. That also builds muscle so that they're taking decisions and they're delivering product that they've produced to really be to build their leadership, but also that they're adding value to the business. And at its core, that's always my message to my team. And that's our tenet. That's the core of our tenet is whatever we do needs to drive and add value to the business every single day. Do we always hit that? Probably not. Does it sometimes feel heavy because it's like, oh, it's HR, here's a form to fill. But at the end of the day, our tenet and our pillar is what we do has to drive value and create value for the organization.
And at the end of the day, fun creates value. We can think about our careers, and we have never had fun when we were surrounded by mediocrity. None of us. We may laugh, we may have a little joke, but we go home and we're exhausted. We're like, man, I don't like my boss. I don't like the people around me. Everybody's not understanding that this is an incredible opportunity to have fun. When you're around high-level people that understand the mission to add value to that mission, all you're doing is having fun. All you're doing is laughing. I work with a company right now, a management company, that every time I'm with them, all we do is laugh. Do we get things done? Oh my God, on a great level. But we're laughing all the time. And to me, the greatest value that I ever bring to an organization is I have high standards. And the number one standard is to have fun. And if we're having fun everyone is making money. The owner's making money. The guests are happy. People are getting promoted. But if you're in mediocrity, you can't have fun. You just can't, because everybody is upset about something.
You're describing kind of every Thursday in my team meetings that we hold here in Atlanta. It's like people stop by the rooms and go, wow, I want to be a part of something like this, because if we don't laugh and we don't giggle, it's tough. It's a hard business. It's been a tough several years. And so having fun is part of that. An incredibly wise individual whom you've had on the show before once said, as part of his leadership, you come to work every day to be with your friends and to create excellence. And that's at its core. That's what you do. And that's Mr. Schultze, by the way, who always used to say that. And that is absolutely it. You get to you spend more time at work with the people you work with every day than you do outside of work sometimes. Yeah. And have a really bad time. It tampers the culture.
And really, I remember I was with IHG developing the Stay Bridge in Times Square. And I said this to someone recently, I think we're at a convention, and they made me go through general manager school. And I can't say pissed. I was just like, I'm not going. I've been doing this 30 years. I've run the biggest hotels. I've turned around the biggest hotels. I mean, I've been a general manager since I've been born. I was born a general manager. I ain't going. And then, Mr. Radowski, the gentleman who ran Staybridge Suites, calls me up and he goes, I heard you're not going. I go, I'm not going. He goes, you're going. I go, okay, I guess I'm going. And I went, and two things I remember. One, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And I was number 2 in the class, not number 1. So I had something to learn as well. And I brought some wisdom, hopefully, and some experiences. But it was fun. They made it fun, and I learned. I learned a lot. I learned about how you guys cleaned a room efficiently, like everything you use. And I've actually used it on my shows. How I actually cleans a room is kind of how I teach how to clean a room now, even on my TV shows and everything I do. So I went to general manager school, and I learned. Even I was probably, 43, 44 at the time.
And that's exactly right. It's creating the connection in the cohort to kind of others in the organization, which is what we try to do, because then who are you calling first? You're not calling me. You're calling the person who is beside you in GM school or in HR school or whatever the school of business or the school of hotel business that we're running. And those are the types of experiences and the interventions that people have to be on in the business to understand the community, first of all. But secondly, it dips down further. When you think about everything, ours is a very simple business at the end of the day. It's been complicated over time by the use of technology and by what we have, which is brilliant. It helps us move a lot faster. But at its core, at the end of the day, taking care of the customer and the guest is absolutely paramount to what we do as an organization, to build loyalty, to create returns, to do everything that we need to do. And the computer pieces are really fundamental. But teaching people how to really have great conversations and engage the guest is the piece. Things are going to happen in hotels, but teaching our team and our colleagues how to handle those by involving them in problem resolution, handling, and training. Those are the kinds of experiences that last and that continue to build, that help us get to the core of what we need to do each and every day.
My favorite part of that was I was somewhere on set, and years ago, and the young lady who won Distinguished Graduate or whatever the thing was texted me or emailed me or DM'd me on LinkedIn or whatever. She goes, wow, I beat the Hotel Impossible guy. I got such a kick out of it. I said, not only you did, you intimidated me, because she always was buttoned up, had her homework done, was ready to go. And I was like intimidated by this woman. And she became a general manager, and she's a superstar. But that she went out of her way to let me know that, hey, just so you know, just tell everybody I'm better than you are.
That's hysterical.
That's a great little button for sure.
Got one time for one more question. Daniel brings up a question that we had someone speak to the answer to, the head of HR for Omni. How do you feel about higher wages on weekends she started doing that, and she found it to be an effective solution. Where do you guys think about it?
Interesting strategy.
Yeah.
Something that we probably need to have a look at.
Mhm.
It sounds like really the shift diff on the evenings. I've
Yeah.
seen.
She equated it to like Uber surge pricing.
Yeah, that's exactly it's pricing. I all I can say is thank you for the share. Something we need to explore. Honestly, something we haven't looked at. We've seen interesting programming and pricing from other industry, whereby you offer higher rates for shorter times and more benefits or those kinds of things. So you have colleagues who work 2 days a week, and so you price them here. You have them work 3 days. They work here. You price them.
Fascinating.
It really is. It's an interesting model where it can work in environments to really attract people in. It also encourages a bit of a flex work. So I love the fact that she's thinking about that, about how do you price differently on weekends to really attract people who just may want to work that time and make it really lucrative. Thanks for sharing. I love that.
First of all, I love your response to that, because my response was, heck no, maybe. I only get paid more. Hey, that's a really good idea too. What happens if somebody just wants to work weekends and they can't work during the week? That's not fair. People work during the week. So what it did was it does what good questions do. They made me think, and I don't know the right answer, but it was a great question. I think that's the question of the week.
Yeah, I love that. It's great because it made me think like, gosh, maybe we need to start thinking about something different. So I love that. Thanks for raising that takeaway.
Sure, Cliff, we do have to get going, but how about you just wrap it up and, give us a good 30 seconds on what you really want everyone to take away from this conversation we've had today.
Yeah, look, so again, thanks a lot for having me. I'm totally celeb starstruck. And I love everybody. Thanks for the questions and the commentary on the phone. I think as a community, as a hotel community, we're a very small neighborhood. And the more that we work together and collaborate and cross collaborate, it feels like we're coming to the end of this, even though pockets happen. But the more that we work and the more that we share, and forums like this are absolutely brilliant for helping us understand as a hotel community and as an organization, pockets of great practice and how we need to connect more and share our stories for things that we're doing across the business. I'm so thankful to be part of this great community. It's one of my, as Anthony said, I'm completely hooked on it. And I love everything that I do. I never say that I'll retire. Retiring for me means I'd actually like to go back to property at some point, just to be able to do that. That would be my retirement. Yeah. But that's it.
The problem, people like, I'm going back to be general manager. I'm making this announcement. I eventually will be either running a major hotel company or I will be a general manager.
Yeah.
I miss running hotels, being a consultant, doing my own business, all the things that I get to do. I'm the luckiest person in the world. I am retiring as a general manager, so I'm going to have a full-time retirement job.
That's great.
And I am going to, this is my promise, continue to be a guest in as many hotels.
I love that. That's incredible. Those are extremely important. I think that the power and the energy that you get and that we feel every time we have the pleasure of walking into a hotel, just the interaction with our staffs and our employees and even the brands, it's so powerful, and it's what makes it really attractive for all of us.
I love getting to know new people. It's amazing.
I know.
I remembered
Anthony, you're hired. So this is Daniel.
I was at the Algonquin, and I was telling a friend of mine that I got to run a hotel again. I'm dying for the team. What I'm dying for is taking that young person that didn't think he had a shot at that department head job and like literally plucking him out of like this one position and like putting him in a position that he's 10 years away from getting and testing him. Like I did that my whole career, and it's something that I get the greatest pleasure in. But I remember telling my friend at the Algonquin that, I want to run a hotel again. And he said, well, I think maybe you forgot how hard it is to run a hotel and how tired it is. And a waiter literally must have heard the conversation, came over immediately, said, I've never seen that man get tired. And it's true. I don't get tired. I've told Glenn 100 times, I've never had a bad day in the hotel business. I don't get tired. It is my energy. It is. I've never remember walking out of a hotel after a 19-hour shift being tired. Never.
Wow. I've never not been tired.
You may have
it's
to
good
work a
balance for
weekend
us.
or two, Anthony, when you go back, though.
What's that?
You may have to work a weekend or two when you go back.
Oh, I worked MOD shifts.
Yeah, there you go.
And I will tell you, I'll rat on myself. I was the MOD that, all the MODs. I'll take the smallest room. Give me the biggest room. If it's not being sold, give it to me. I'm that guy. As long as it's not being sold.
Those were the days of those really good MOD programs.
Yeah, as long as it's not being sold, give it to me. So that means every MOD has to get the biggest suite in the house if it's not being sold.
Yeah, that's.
I love it, Cliff. Thank you so much for being here, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
May you and your family have a wonderful holiday and stay warm. We know it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for you down there.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
Being attention to detail guy, are you standing on something right now?
I'm standing on my feet right now.
Because the way you have that perfectly, just everything is perfect. I was like, he's got to be standing or something. It's like your background is almost like a Hallmark card.
Yeah.
Dave sent the staging crew this morning.
That's what it looks like.
You can imagine the fumble that we've done, and I give all the credit to my husband for helping arrange this. If you look on the background of this, it looks like Amazon has exploded in the office.
No, but being
perfectly staged. So thank
you. Being a perfectionist,
right?
It makes me happy.
Hey, listen, everybody, tune into Hallmark for it's an IHG Christmas celebration starring Clif Deaton.
That's true.
Great.
Thanks, Cliff. We appreciate you.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. Happy holidays to you.
Bye-bye. Wow, what a year, Anthony. Dave said we had 147 guests this past year on No Vacancy Live. How crazy is that?
Dave, thank you for getting that number. 147 guests. There's only 365 days a year. We've only done it 3 days a week for a while. You take out weekends. Wow. So that means 147 people wanted to be on this podcast.
Well, maybe. There could have been a whole lot of them that came on begrudgingly, kicking and screaming. We don't know.
147 people.
Amazing.
Gave opportunities to people to contact them, to say, we'll mentor you. Mm-hmm. We'll look at you for a job. We talk to construction people. We talk to marketing people. We talk to human resources people. We talk to the president of WIN. We've spoken to everybody.
We talked to the first female pilot in, I think it was Ghana. I spoke to one day when you were gone, an Olympic champion who became a chef. We had a lot of great interviews this past year. And right now, those two and a couple of others we're going to feature all next week.
We spoke to somebody that's responsible for 600,000 military people in the most important building in the world, Pentagon. So this show has given us so much. Like, again, I started doing this show just because it was COVID, and now I'm doing it. It's like, it still fits into the schedule because we do it from wherever we are. And now it's you couldn't take this show out of my dead cold hands because it's so fascinating to see people that are doing it every day be so transparent. Did you ever in a million years, Glenn, think that they would be as real and transparent? We had somebody, and I remember the person perfectly. It was from, I won't even say who it was, because it was a moment where we were all really kind of in the problem. And he said, it's a brand, it's a great brand, a food and beverage brand. And he said, Anthony, I'm being honest with you. Right now, if you have a heartbeat and you don't have a criminal record, the cops aren't chasing you, I'm going to give you a job. When that person said that, I was like, wow, we're doing something, because that person wouldn't say that today. But when people were so desperate, they just said it. They couldn't even hold back. They were so emotional. Yeah. Seeing Chris Green go through it and then Chris Green become president of his company is just insane to be able to experience what we've experienced.
Yeah. And most of all, I just want to thank everyone out there for tuning in and watching and participate and helping us educate all of you out there on all the issues that matter most to us in our community. So thank you.
Yeah. And me and Glenn, like, we hear it every day, whether it be CEO, director of marketing, a college student, I listen to your show religiously. And every single time I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. People are listening. All right, that's great.
Yeah, a lot of people tell me they listen to the show agnostically or atheistically as well. I don't want to leave anyone out.
No, but it's just really, if we help one person get a job, if we help one person figure out an issue, if there's one quote that resonates with someone, if there's someone that we bring on that looks like them, that they've not seen look like them in a hotel or an executive position, it's just it's incredible what this show has been able to provide. And if we could, I know we have to go in a second, but can we get our producer to come in? I know Suzanne's not feeling well.
Suzanne is really sick. I wish she was here today, and we still got Cliff backstage. Hang on, Cliff. Don't worry. We'll get you out of here. Dave, we just brought you in.
Hold on.
There you are. Hey, there he is.
Wow. Is that what a producer of the show looks like?
No, it's what a GM of an awesome hotel in New York City looks like. Yeah.
I was going to say that doesn't look. I thought a producer would be in Hollywood with lights. He's in an office running a hotel.
When I was doing this before the job, I was sitting in my bed with my 3-year-old at the time, jumping over my back in shorts and a hoodie the entire time.
What's the one thing this show has provided for you?
He wrote it in the private chat, which is funny.
My job. So this show, reconnected me with Jimmy Taylor, who I hadn't talked to in years, and Jimmy probably didn't really know me at the time. And saw a job posting at one of the sister properties, and I reached out to Jimmy. Jimmy got me in contact with the GM of that property. That GM's property said, "You're better for the director of revenue job at this property." Now I came to this property as director of revenue, but then my GM quit, so now I'm a GM. All truly because of this show. So.
Yeah, and one of the pieces of advice, I remember you called me for something, and I'm going to share this, whether you like it or not, and hopefully you'll remember it, because it did more for me than it did for you, because someone said it to me and I said it to you. You were talking about something, and you were the revenue manager. I say, work until you're about to fall down and go home, and then come back and do it again. Do you remember me giving you that advice?
I do.
I may use some curse words in there too, but I remember saying, you're in a position right now where things are desperate and you're raising your hand. Keep raising your hand, keep working hard, keep working until you can't function anymore and go home, and you will get an opportunity. And you did. And that says a lot about you.
I've been very fortunate to have both of you guys as mentors on me through a lot of things. I remember that plus many other things you've told me very specifically. And yes, there's typically some more curse words mixed in there, but it's very, very great advice.
I never mince words, do I?
No, not once.
No, but I also tell you to seek out experts that maybe I don't know an answer to. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. Like go call this person and call that person.
No, absolutely. That we just did it last week. I asked you a question. You're like, I'm not 100% sure, but here's who I know who can help you. And thankfully, I actually was in contact with that person already about something else a while back, and I reached out to her. We got the answer, and it worked out. So it's been
awesome.
I've gone through this journey as a first-time GM in the middle of Manhattan, having you as a resource has been
well, thank you for your support for both of us. And your sound is terrible, so go back in your home.
Yeah. Goodbye, Dan. Well, he wasn't supposed to be on air today. So what are you gonna do? All right, let's wrap this up by saying, hey, why not listen to us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you download your shows. We are there. But if you're listening to us right now, why not give us a watch? Watch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, novacancynews.com is where you can find all past shows. He's at Anthony Hotels, and I'm at Traveling Glenn. I just like to say thanks again for the support. We love all of you. And Anthony, I love you. And it's such an honor getting to do this show with you all year.
It's a privilege. And we truly are the odd couple. And it is it's perfectly suited for us. And I don't know who's Felix or Oscar, but we definitely are the odd couple. And
definitely odd. That's for sure.
But it's become very meaningful. The show. It was, like I said, it's become a part of kind of how I become a better hotelier, a better business person, by listening to all these stories, by learning. My greatest habit or hobby is to listen to really smart people and learn from them, and steal all of their creative ideas, as many as I can, and give them credit. And sometimes I forget to give them credit. but
Yep.
but it's really the hearing David say he got a job because he got connected to the show and he got connected. How many people have gotten a job or decided? I can't tell you how many people have decided, hey, I decided to become a general manager, or I decided to get out of the business, or whatever it was. It's, we're providing a service, but more importantly, I guess what I want to say is the service the show provides for me and for us is more than I can ever say thank you for.
Beautiful. Anthony, this has been a great year. We look forward to seeing all of you in 2023. Brand new bonus show Monday, already pre-recorded with the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Joanne Bass. You won't want to miss that one. Plus our greatest hits all week long. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on, and
I will be remiss if we don't give the biggest shout out, biggest hug, biggest standing ovation to our doctor producer, Suzanne, who we could literally not do the show without. We literally couldn't do the show without David, who books our guests. These two people are superheroes. And like I think we take them for granted. I try not to, but I just want to say they deserve 90% of the credit for this show.
Yeah, I'll even go as far as 95. We just come on and we just yap a little bit. All right.
Like today, I had no idea who was on and what we're going to talk about. No idea until I even texted you. I go,
dude, I sent you the picture at like 8 o'clock this morning or something like that, which is the only time I think I've done that all year.
Yeah, and I did it, and I didn't, like, I don't know. I was like 8 o'clock this morning. I was doing 17 things, and I looked at it and go, what the hell is he talking? I didn't know what the hell you were talking about.
All right, don't even worry about it. I got a cat that needs to eat. Probably there's other cats around the house that need to eat. I got to go. Remember, everybody, you got one life to blaze. So blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See y'all next year. Bye.
And you're a cool cat.